And what I am very much aware of now, at this stage in my life, is a couple of things that have liberated me completely. One is menopause. But the second, no, serious, I'm absolutely serious. But the other one is this, and that's that as I have reached a certain age where I realize that I have less time in front of me than behind me. I think it's true for some of you as well in here. And what that has done is made me appreciate that time is our most precious commodity. And even though none of us, we can assume that longevity is a part of our lives, but we don't know that. Time is simply our most precious commodity. And with that in mind, I am very much aware that you're giving me time by sharing your, and I can return your money, but I can't return your time. So that is how I treasure and value these days that we're spending as something that cannot be returned. And so with that in mind, that's how I create my workshops now. What can I give you and share from my experience now as a teacher and as a medical intuitive and as a theologian in mystical theology that is of value to you as you sojourn the rest of your life. And so I construct mine with the idea of you having jewels in a pouch that you can draw upon for the rest of your life. And so during the course of our time together, I will say, here's a jewel. And so that means that you're going to pay attention to that. So that's how I've ordered it. So the subject of power and what that means is not a small subject. It's huge. It is the, I think, game changer now. The most pivotal subject, topic, it's bigger than that, archetypal dynamic that is at play everywhere in our bodies, in our lives, in the celestial world. The changing shape of the God myths are about power. The two popes in the Vatican leaving that, every single thing that is happening is about the dismantling of one thing of power and us trying to construct where to from here. So it's a big deal to decide, I want to understand the nature of life within the language of power, period. Period. So it's not just about empowerment. It's about actually engaging life through the metaphor, the language, the symbol, the understanding that power is the fundamental ingredient of the human experience. Everything you do is an exchange of power. Everything you think, every word you use, every place you sit, everything you buy, will this empower me or disempower me? Even if you use the word, will people laugh at me? Can I get away with wearing that? That is a question that at the end of the day is, do I have the power to wear this? I don't have the power to wear this. I can't wear this. I don't have that kind of power. What kind of power is required to wear this? A different archetype. So everything is about power and understanding your life in that. When you're intimidated with people, you're intimidated by their sense of their power patterns versus yours. And you're reading them, even though you don't get that you're reading them, but by the time I'm done with you, you're going to get that. You're going to sense that you are actually reading archetypal patterns. You resonate with some, we don't resonate with others. But that's just telling you why I think it's so important. But in order to get into my workshop, we have to go through the door of prayer. Because that, to me, is the big deal. So, and what we're going to do is ignore that. They have street people, and he'll be gone tomorrow, and we're going to be here just for the evening, and then we're going to go have a nice dinner, so they won't be here with us during the day tomorrow. So we're on their territory this evening, so. Okay. Okay. Let grace come upon this. Open yourselves to letting all the grace come into you, to guide you on an inner journey of transformation. Release to the angels, take me out tonight. Lord, let my angel take me out of my body tonight and travel with that angel to the realm of healing. Let that angel sit by my side and remove from me my fear of understanding the depth and power that is this life of mine. Sit with me through the night and then return me to my body before the sun rises. And surround me with grace. Amen. Okay? Now, off to work we go. The first thing I'd like to kind of set a stage. And for those of you who have been with me before, this is very familiar, but for those of you who haven't, I'd like to I'll tell you that I am such a bad drawer, but I like to give you a couple of images that will actually serve you the rest of your life, believe it or not. And they're going to work in this classroom. What color is that? Yeah, that'll do. And so I talk from this building metaphor because it works, and you're going to use it the rest of your life. You will always use this. I'm hypnotizing you. You will always use this because it makes so much sense. And that's that you are like a building. Once you're built, it doesn't move, and all the movement's inside the building. And every time you go up a floor, the view that you see around this building that never moves changes. So if you're on the first floor of this one building, and this is how I saw this, I went to visit a friend in Manhattan, and the first floor, it's loud, and there's the trash was out in front. It was hot in August. It was loud and trashy, but she lived on the top. She did live in the penthouse. And when I got up there, I couldn't smell the street. I couldn't hear those loud taxi cabs, and I could see the Hudson. Now, if I was living on the first floor and someone said, do you know you live near this beautiful river and you live this, we would be in two different realities in the same space simultaneously. And I thought, that is so incredible, because there's no way that this person would ever believe that they could see all that could be seen from that very same address. So if you talk to these two people and said, what's your hood like? This one would say, oh my God, it's loud and crowded and dirty. And this one would say, it's stunning. Same address. And then as you go up each floor in you, and what takes you up each floor is a different understanding of the very same thing. Of the very same thing. But all of a sudden you get something that you didn't get before. So that when you look out the window, that neighborhood was always there, only now you see another 10 blocks. Only now you get how this system works. Only now you get that it becomes bigger and bigger and bigger. And as you go up in your own consciousness, your perspective of how the universe works, how life really works, how et cetera, that down here, all human beings on the first floor cling to their fellow human beings by biological tribe. And by the time you get to the penthouse, you don't have a body, you have a soul. And you realize that we are one huge breathing system, that all life breathes together. The journey from that truth, that illusion, that we're in it separately, and we have to take what we can to, oh no, that's not the rule. The rule is we have to give, and that what I take from you, I'm taking from me. I'm shooting myself in the foot. I am doing everything upside down. The name of the game here is, if I'm not empowering you, I'm sinking my own ship. You either play by the invisible rules or you play by the physical rules. The physical ones are the illusion, but that's where the brain. But anyway, somewhere up this road, up these floors, you understand that just like with buying every time you get to that place where you are about to realize a new truth, and this is how you become empowered, how much truth can you handle? How much truth can you handle? You know, it's like, I don't want to know that much. I don't want to, and this one man said to me, in England, it was really quite astonishing. He stopped me in the middle of my workshop and he said, stop. I can't do this anymore. I can't. Because we were about to talk about how the true significance of forgiveness in what it meant psychically, biologically, cosmically, the real journey of this man Jesus. And he said, I don't want to go there because I will have to live it if I understand it. I will have to live it. I won't be able to not live it. And he said, I have to keep my anger in order to survive with the people I live with. He said, I can't be the only forgiving person because if I am, they will always take advantage of me. And I just can't survive. They will think that that forgiveness is just, well, he'll always let it go. It doesn't matter what we do to him. They won't get what forgiveness is, and I can't survive being the only one who gets it. That was one of the most sincere, heartbreaking, it was soul-breaking. Because the fact is, he did get it, and he knew he was going to live by it. And this is what the mystics meant when they wrote, God, this is painful. That's what they meant. They didn't mean like, oh my God, you're making me suffer. No. It's that when you come to understand a truth so huge, and yet you have to reside and live that truth, you have to live the truth that you understand, or that truth will destroy you because it's so huge. And the only way you can sustain yourself is to thine own self be true. So this is that journey where power and truth go together. And there's stages of it where the first is that first level of empowerment is what people often think is speaking up. That's not empowerment, but it's like baby steps. It's the baby steps. So we'll get to all that later. That's tomorrow's work. What's important to understand tonight is a big overview. And that's that why we even are talking about empowerment. That we're the generation since the nuclear age to even have this subject matter. That you would never, ever find people discussing empowerment prior to now. It would never be a subject. Now it's only a subject. And pretty soon, I'm absolutely convinced that issues of power will become legitimate health issues. That as we evolve, we will eventually say that they will do a scale of power, empowerment, somehow or other, that will be measured in terms of why someone is having a heart attack, or why it will be worked into, or the health factors. That when they can figure out how to language power in a tangible enough way, that they can then turn it around into a factor that can be somehow or other recognized as a biological coordinate, as a relationship coordinate, as a emotional coordinate. I remember years ago, I'm part, work with this one university kind of that had tried to get started for a while, and it had to fundraise. And so that means you have to ask people for money. And it was through that I met this one person who was a billionaire, not through her own creativity, but through inheritance. And much to my surprise, this was shocking to me. She had never done one thing for charity. Not one thing ever. Not one thing ever, ever, ever. Well, okay, so then that was enough. I really was like, but it's all right. It was my assumption that when you have more money than God, you do something for others, but hey. And so we needed $150,000. I'm talking to someone with $3 billion to do a scholarship fund. Not to go on vacation, not to go to Aspen, but a scholarship fund. That puzzled her, baffled her, puzzled her, baffled her. Money for education, she'd never given to anything. And so I'm looking at her like, what on earth is wrong with you? But so I had to kind of pull myself back and think, what kind of creature of the night is this? And I recognized something. But it was one of the greatest learning ahas I ever had. Was that somewhere along the line, there's a mechanism in human beings where if I'm dealing with someone who makes $50, $60, $80, $150, $200,000 a year, asking them for a few $100 to help out is no problem. The generosity of people at that level is no problem. When people have a lot more, there's an archetypal shift that happens. And that shift is they go from the language changes. And so now I recognized I wasn't asking her for money, I was asking her for power. I was asking her for 150,000 units of power. So, and she couldn't bear to empower anybody. Now that was not something she would even consider doing. Not at all. Wasn't going to happen on her watch. So no, when it got time, when it became, she thought, well, I would consider this, but you have to talk to my lawyers, and you have to do this and do this and do this and do this, and all of this for the amount of money she made on interest over lunch. I wanted to put her head in the toilet for 7 minutes. Okay, but it really made sense to me when I thought about she couldn't bear to empower another human being. Now, at some point, that's one of the issues we all have to face. In our journey of becoming empowered, one of the exams we face with the universe is who do we find it impossible to empower? Because we have to look, that's how we become empowered, by looking at those we cannot bear to empower and setting about, that's my next task, is becoming capable of empowering that person empowers me. You don't get your power back by beating mattresses and screaming and telling people about your anger and yep. That's nonsense. It's by looking at exactly the kind of thing you cannot bear to empower and figuring out why. The question is why? What is different about us as a species, than the people who lived before us, pre-nuclear age, pre-World War II. Because none of those, I assure you, no one in that era ever sat in a seminar worrying about power. None of those people ever said, I have to get my power back or figure out where it is. No one ever spoke like that. In that era, power was viewed as financial, status, stuff. The last thing it was viewed as was the capacity to take back was to develop a sense of self-esteem. That was not on the, that was, what the word they would use is respect. To have respect for yourself, not esteem. That wasn't a way anybody would phrase it. They would say, have some respect for yourself. But not esteem. That word is a little bit too lofty for back then. Okay? To esteem yourself means to hold yourself in very high regard. Pre-World War II, the object was to respect yourself. That you kept your word, that you held your dignity, you just, etc. Things were about how you physically behaved and this type of thing. But now, in shifting and entering the nuclear age, all the rules of life have shifted, and we're only beginning, in my language, we're making our way through, not yet fully getting that the rules of life have completely shifted. We are now living in an energy-based world where the rules of energy come before the rules of matter. Like creation, thought comes before form. Energy before, okay, these are the rules of creation. And those rules are now governing us in a way that hasn't been since Pythagoras. Okay, that when we entered the nuclear age, like being in an hourglass, the hourglass shifted instantly, and the rules shifted from a matter-based world to an energy-based world. That fast. We went into the quantum world. That fast. And we have been trying to, this is why we're like a new species that we're trying to figure out how we work all over again. That's why inner space is the new frontier. Inner space and outer space. That's why how much about our research about ourselves that is learning like brand new stuff about ourselves that we've never known before, because we're just now getting into this understanding of ourselves as being psychic creatures in physical bodies. Are you with me here? This is just a most extraordinary time to be alive. But having said that, it also means that the world that was built on the other side of that hourglass, the world that was built matter first, that's the one we're watching dismantled. Okay, that's the one we're watching melt away. So what do I mean by that? Well, did you notice how chaotic the world is? Okay, all right, no, but see, if you're an ordinary mortal, you're going to go on the first floor And you're going to say, the chaos is due to that person and this person and that person. And you're going to blame the package that's delivering the chaos. And you're going to miss the point. You will never be accurate. Like any first floor, you never see the whole from the first floor. So you don't have anything correct. Whereas if you stand back and say, what is really going on here? What's really going on here is that our understanding of how we work, our understanding of how we function has gone into a brand new model. So I'm going to take it back with a simple example. When Jesus and Buddha came on the scene, Jesus incarnates, and prior to that time, that area of the world was, it had the Judaic myths, it had the Roman, the Greek, those mythologies. And in those mythologies were basic half-God, half-man stories. A Messiah was going to come, and then the Hercules, you had half-God, half-men from the Greek and the Roman traditions. And all of a sudden, a real half-God, half-man lands on the earth, who becomes the last of the half-God, half-men stories. One actually really incarnated. So this is an important thing to understand here. So he's walking around and he says, all these stories that you heard about how the organization of heaven is are external. You don't need those anymore. I'm going to give you the laws for the internal. So what this teacher did was he reconstructed a whole archetypal consciousness, as did Buddha. Buddha came in and he did the same thing with the mind, the sixth chakra, and Jesus took the heart. Now it's important to learn, because what they did was they opened up the world behind our eyes. Up until then, consciousness was all external. All external. People did not go deeply into themselves. The temple was outside. Power was outside. Nobody had this idea that you could go inside yourself and pray. That was blasphemy. You can't. You have to go outside. So what he did was he set up a different model. And here comes Buddha, who says, all this world is a big illusion. Now this is a great big huge thing, because these two are relatively just a few hundred years apart. And that is a great big huge thing, because from the first floor, someone would say, oh yeah, this is illusion. Take the chair and hit it over your head, and you're knocked out, and say, that doesn't feel like an illusion. Which means you have to really grapple with, what on earth does that mean? And what it means is there's a part in you, a mechanism in you, that has the power to attach or not attach to everything you see, and you decide whether something's real. It's such a big thing I just told you that we have to spend lots of time on this one. But it's you that decides. You give something power or you don't. Do you want this pen? Has any of you been sitting there saying, if I don't have that pen, I won't be able to sleep tonight? No, I'm serious. Serious. Okay, so look at this pen. That's what it feels like to not want something. I want you to experience that. This is what it feels like to not be attached to something. There's no part of your energy that is attached to this. It has no power over you. That is what that feels like. You need to have a real example of what it feels like, a reference point, for it to have something have no power over you. That's what it feels like. It has no power. So whether I threw it this way, threw it that way, stamped on it, it's not going to affect, and get this, your blood pressure, your stomach. Your stomach's not turning because I'm doing this and this. You're not thinking, oh God, is she going to hurt that pen? Look what she's doing. My God, doesn't she know what she's doing? None of you is sitting there like that. You could care less what I do with this left pocket, right pocket, that. It could care less. You are, and here's the word, detached. Buddha, detach, stay detached. Does it matter if it is from a person, a relationship, or a pen? Nah. To this person, oh yeah, well you can't. You may be detached from a pen, but not a person. No. Buddha would say there's no difference. Detachment's detachment. You think it's different because if you detach from the person won't need you, so you're not getting it. And that becomes the journey of the soul, to get that. That's power. To get that my holding on to you is not going to keep you in my life. That's what Buddha would say is illusion. That's how I start hemorrhaging. That's how I start hemorrhaging, because I don't know how to handle my own power. Back to square one. We are now in this remarkable era where, and people they don't really get it, but somehow within a handful of decades, everything about life about us has become focused on understanding how we work at the microcosmic level. Like, how come we feel like the kinds of health issues we have, which are so very rooted in energy now? How come we have an epidemic of depression? We never used to be such depressed people, but we are now. How we've become so remarkably fragile, and we don't even know why. We're exceedingly fragile. We break like this. But we shouldn't. We shouldn't. Our elders they took had all kinds of horror things happen. They lost their farms, they lost their lives, they lost their families, half their children never made it to adulthood. They had stamina you wouldn't believe. They crossed nations in wooden carts. And we can't get over a conversation or a comment. We feel that has to be processed. Forever. And sometimes even hiring a third person. I need to put this in perspective. I need to put this in perspective. So when you talk about empowerment, what are you talking about? If you so easily lose your power compared to the elders that once from the line you came from. And yet, it's as if we have to really get that every single shred of thought, every word we say, actually is a lightning bolt of creative force. So at the same time, we're becoming hyper aware of the power that is in us. And the way we're becoming hyper aware is by through our fragileness. Our fragileness is our teacher. Our fragileness. Realizing that we're discovering our interior by, and how incredibly microcosmic and tiny our what I'd call our quantum threads are. And how every one of those threads, all those particles of light in us, are conscious and powerful. And that's what's true. And when the saints, what I call saints, the mystics, when they saw this, like Buddha, when they realized, oh my God, everything in me is a conscious light source of creation. What the saints would say is, I surrender everything back to you. Unless you're telling me what to do with this, I'm not doing anything. Because you've given me such a powerful instrument. You surrender not out of weakness, but out of power. Out of power. You've given me so much, just tell me what to do. That's power. You know, what do you want me to, how do you want me to serve? You've made me so much that every word I say can change someone's life. Every look I give somebody. A smile can change someone's life. A touch. I'll blast grace through you and that person's life changes. That's how powerful you are. And that's what you're discovering about yourself. That's what makes this moment in time so incredible. It also is incredible because, like so many other times in history, where two systems, or the rare times where two systems of consciousness have come together, like the end of the Roman era, the beginning of the Judeo-Christian, the beginning of that stream, whatever, there's always a lot of rocking and rolling when two systems of consciousness. And in this case, the best way to say it is we're coming to the end of the fossil age, the people of the earth, and we're entering the solar, the sun age. And we're on the cusp of entering a galactic community, of discovering we're not the only planet with life on it. However that will take its shape, I do not know. But we are not the only planet in this vast of vastness that has life in it. And that one thing, if you follow that through, is also the reason that at this point all the mythologies of the Abrahamic religions are collapsing. Because they're the ones that promote a human-looking God in some way. An earth-centric God that looks like us. So you have the three boys, Messiah, the Son of God, and the prophet. And these stories need to get dismantled now. And so they're fighting for survival with all their might. And they're collapsing. We have two popes in the Vatican. We have all kinds of fires happening in the Judeo-Christian Islamic traditions. Because they want to fight to survive, but the myth is the lights are going out. I'm going to take it this way. The stories of those religions, and I love them. I mean, I love religion and I love all the stories, but here's the truth. In my years as a medical intuitive, I went from studying, working and trying to do kind of diagnostic work. And in the early years, I was not interested in how to make you better, because that wasn't my area. I was just trying to figure out why you were losing power and to understand the human energy system, which is something I never even heard of. You have to appreciate my field was journalism and history, not, and that I got even kicked out of biology practically. So I mean, like I knew nothing, zero. God couldn't have picked a worse person, but if it wasn't for Norm. So eventually, I wasn't interested in why people healed. I wanted to know why you didn't heal it, because I was so naive that I thought everybody wanted to be better, that everybody wanted to be well. Well, then that opened the door to why people don't heal. Now that was fascinating to me, because that was the first time I connected the power dot. It was the first time I saw that having a flaw or having a challenge, even pain, becomes a power tool, and that shadow power is power, and a lot of it. And that's something we have to look at tomorrow, is the power of our shadow, and that's the most challenging power to give up. The most, because it's a big ally, and you don't get how you have come to rely on your shadow as a big ally. So anyway, as I then continued, it would be years before I finally got interested in what about really healing and miracles. And by that time, my own life spiritually had opened up with Teresa of Avila, and all different things were happening to me. And the bottom line is this. What I recognized was that the language of religion is a language of separation. And the language of the soul, which I'd like to kind of dabble in a little bit this next few days, is a language of holism, to be a whole person. And that your immune system, your body, your sacred nature, thrives on the mystical truth that what is in one is in the whole. Like Jesus, as above, so below. The teachings of Buddha, it's illusion if you think anything separate. By holding on to a creed, a manufactured creed, that in order to be part of this religion, you have to separate from other people. You are actually injecting into your bio-spiritual chemistry, your bio-spiritual ecology, lies that dismantle your immune system. So we've reached this incredible place where the health of what I call our bio-spiritual ecology requires a cosmic theology, an organic theology, divine organics, in which we understand that God is law, nature, that our nature, all nature, is in fact the expression of the consistency and ever-presence of God. That God is impersonal, totally organized by orbits and numbers and mathematics and all of this, and yet, dare you think, oh no. The odd thing is, everything about you is totally known, and prayer makes everything intimate. So while this is a totally impersonal universe, meaning I don't care who you are, if you jump, you're going to fall, and if I jump, I fall. Because the law of gravity is the law of gravity, and it doesn't play favorites. No matter what. At the same time, if you pray, God help me not to trip again with these things. Hold me. Let me sense it. Your intuition, the light goes on there. so that you don't fall so much. But you will never not fall if you trip. Because that's the law. But so will I. So it's equal. The law doesn't play favorites. You see how this works now? And where power begins to really take root in you is when you get the rules of the game here. As you go up the building and you decide, I need to play by the rules. I don't bend the rules around me. I join the rules. I learn the rules. Okay, you guys are nodding off. I've had you here for 45 minutes. I'm going to take a few questions and then I'm going to send us for dinner. So there's a great dinner downstairs. You're going to discover this place is absolutely magnificent. Do you have any questions before I? Yes.
Where are you? Wait.
Right up here.
Thanks.
Can you hold it real close?
Yeah, you were talking about detachment. What's the difference between that and when you have a sacred contract with someone and there's this
Oh,
whatever?
I bet this is personal.
Yeah.
I must be psychic. How do you know? You know what? I'm going to give you a mini answer and then we could go into it in much detail because this is not a simple thing, but I'll put it in simple. You know, did you ever walk into a place and think, I don't belong here, I got to get out? Then you know what it's like not to have any energetic connection. In that same way, if you take romance out of something, take it out, and consider another relationship that came to an end, and you didn't have to think twice about it. How did you know it came to an end? Just take the romance out. Don't think. Look at another relationship, and you knew this is it. It's over. The energy just stopped, and it was over. And you didn't make a big deal out of it because it was over, and you could sense it. You could just sense it. You knew it. We complicate it with romance because you just don't want to accept it, but it's over. Okay. And just because something's a contract doesn't have longevity to it, or doesn't mean it's easy. Usually, maybe not. But sometimes, a contract means this is someone you're going to learn with. I have a contract with Norm Shealy. I wouldn't have done any of this work if it wasn't for Norm. Okay? Because I would never have gone near any of this. And it's been lovely and wonderful our whole lives, 37 years now. 37 years. And so that's one of those contracts that has been just exquisite. Exquisite. But you let it be what it is, It's just a wonderful partnership, friendship. At the same time, I've worked with other people, and I thought this was great to be, and then the minute it's over, I can't snap my finger anymore. It's over. Romantic too. It's like if you have to force something, like you're grabbing your throat. Yeah. You know when you're forcing something. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. Yeah. And here, let me give you some great guiding words. Rejection is protection. You live by that. And it's better to want what you don't have than have what you don't want. You understand that? So don't you worry. Okay, everybody, I'm going to send you to dinner. Remember the angel prayer tonight. When you go to sleep, I want you to imagine looking up and just saying to your angel, take me with you and return me before sunrise. And I bet a lot of you are tired, huh? Okay, so go downstairs. We're going to have a great dinner.